listening on the SHR Media Network. You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain.
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 Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain.
No, not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
I have brought us all here tonight to talk about an SHR Media special report. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast. The Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that petrifying edifice at late at night. When I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, palatial, and effulgently bulbous SHR Media Studios, I'll be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that mentally destitute column structure aforementioned. What you're about to hear for the next 2 hours is my opinion, that of no one else's. Also this, because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon is no longer open. But I am open in the back, and I will be serving stiff drinks in the back, out of the back door, as well as facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense. And also got to tell you this, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon, where the speech is always free, but the booze is not. In 2020, as I've said before, I am done with bipartisanship and compromise. It's war. And you'll learn why. Tonight, for 2 hours, I don't have a guest. It's going to be myself and a lot of audio cuts. And it's also going to be Hey, Jimmy, welcome to Facebook chat. Peter, welcome to Facebook chat. And the folks in SHR chat, welcome to Simone, the Alaskan, Nathan, and one viewer. Welcome, come one, come all. Share this with everybody that you can think of. Share it on Facebook, share it on Spreaker, share it. And don't be cruel. Be a sharing kind of individual. This, tonight. If you have gone to the SHR Media page, and before I start, I want to tell everybody this. Tonight is going to be a grand experiment. Sergeant Booker, well, good to see you. Tonight is a grand experiment. Sackhead Sean believes that he has solved the cursor issue, which has been cursing me for about the past 2 weeks. We had a playback issue, and there is also an update. If you're in chat right now, you can't have missed it. Scott, Marcia, welcome to Facebook chat. You can't have missed the new and updated SHR Media page. Check it out, the brand new site, new front page, minimalized unnecessary junk yanked out by its little guts. And now you get some options. That's what I want to find out tonight. Now you've got some options right from the front page itself. You can watch from the front page of shrmedia.com. You can watch the live stream on YouTube. Now, if you go over to Listen Live Chat, if you click on that, you can hear the show, and you can also be in the chat room at the same time. And I'm not on that page, but I think also above that is YouTube again. So from the Listen Live Chat page, you can listen to it audio only. You can be in the chat room at SHR, and you can watch the live streaming on YouTube. That's the goal, to make it all work. Mike, welcome to chat. Jeremy, good to see you in chat in Facebook. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Now, because this is all new, I want to know if it's working. So please keep me informed during the show. Let me know if the audio is functioning, if the stream is functioning, if the chat room is functioning, because Sean is listening and watching right now, who is the fixer, because everybody knows that I am, the quintessential Mark I Model 1 Luddite. This is a work in progress. So if things aren't perfect, please be patient. You can always go to Spreaker. You can always go to Facebook. You can always go to YouTube. And so thank you for your patience. If you like it and it works, let me know. So guess what, folks? You are all the experimental guinea pigs tonight to see if this stuff works. Sean worked long and hard to try to make this, kick out the bugs, get it all ready to go. So, number one, we're hoping that it does exactly that. So, why hang around? Let's just get going.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
And this is America on July 4th, 2020. This is a clarion call. 1 year ago, the United States of America looked and felt quite different than it does today. I should know. I was there. You were there. I recognized it then. Do you? I care. Do you? How many of us do? 1%, 2%, 10%, 50%? You know what? I guess we're going to find out on November, won't we? November 3rd. And we'll wake up on November 4th with a brand new country. Or will we? I'm hoping it's a continuation of the same. But hope won't make it, and hope won't do it. But we have to ask ourselves, what's happening now? What makes up America around us on this 4th of July, 2020? Now, I'm not going to be here on the 4th, so I had to do this show tonight, on Thursday. And I'm going to show you. You're going to hear it. For a very salient reason. I want everybody to wake up. Let's start at the start a little bit. Let's start with the Wuhan 19 virus, what the politically correct amongst us call the coronavirus. It isn't what you think, and it's not what the LDAM, those are my words for the leftist Democrats and American media maggots, are telling you. There have been some recent facts that the LDAM aren't telling you, and that is very purposeful. Now, this is interesting. I prep all my audio cuts before I get here. And the very first audio cut that I want you to hear tonight was the most difficult to guess or to get. It's been removed from YouTube not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm looking at my little cut sheet, my opening right here, and 4 hours ago it went dark, so I had to find another one. 3 hours ago it went dark. 2 hours ago that other one went dark. And then I found something that I think is going to play tonight. And once you hear it, I think you'll understand why apparently this thing is such a damn threat to YouTube and to the leftists themselves. So make no mistake, okay? I agree with a lot of the people that say that the numbers are going up in terms of Wuhan 19. On the other hand, so is the testing. But we know that figures lie and liars figure. No one is apparently doing an examination of the numbers themselves or the situations revolving around the numbers of Wuhan 19, or dare I say it, the money. The money. I've mentioned the money before. Whiskey Dale in SHR chat says, if BZ only had a producer. Yeah, I know. I remind myself of that constantly. Here's something you didn't hear, touted from the highest citadels. This happens to be from Gateway Pundit. Dr. Anthony Fauci's remdesivir costs $9 a dose. But it's going to be sold at $3,000 a treatment. And a China company linked to George Soros is going to mass produce the drug. And I think Jeremy Hansen already mentioned that in his show. The Association of American Physicians and Surgeons and the FDA, they filed a lawsuit, against the Department of Health and Human Services and the FDA for irrational interference by the FDA with timely access to hydroxychloroquine. Never in history have we seen such a marked and determined effort by the alleged scientific community and pharmaceutical industry to downplay and lie about the use of a successful drug to treat a deadly disease. Hydroxychloroquine is the first choice in a study of 6,000 doctors treating the coronavirus. But it's also a drug that has been proscribed by governors throughout a bunch of states. There was a big old hanging pushback against hydroxychloroquine for 2 reasons. The first is because it was safe and it was known. And I forgot to add, very inexpensive. The second major reason was because Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, promoted its use. So Dr. Fauci did promote the use of remdesivir, and he said he was excited to share the news on the effectiveness in April. Now, there's a company called Gilead, Gilead, or Gilead, might be the correct pronunciation. The company that produces remdesivir is a very large company that spends millions of bucks in its lobbying. And Gilead is also connected to the Waxy, Aptree, and George Soros. The one person behind the promotion of Gilead's remdesivir is the doctor who has worked with Gilead for a long time, Dr. Fauci, and he has downplayed and criticized the use of the much cheaper drug hydroxychloroquine. So now do you see why the curtains are beginning to open up? Because pharmaceutical giant Gilead announced the pricing for its specifically targeted coronavirus drug remdesivir. Gilead said the drug is going to cost $520 per vial or $3,120 for a 6-vial treatment for something that was originally $9 a treatment. So, folks, about this time, don't you have to say something similar to cui bono? Who benefits Dr. Fauci? Now we're going to get to the, and I hope I can get this to play. I found it at another site. Peter, welcome. Good to see you in Facebook chat. I found this other site that, to my knowledge, has not yet been eliminated. It's not doing audio for me, but that's okay because I don't play audio. You don't see audio of the videos that I play on the show. You're just going to hear the audio. This is from Dr. Mark Siegel yesterday on the Tucker Carlson Tonight Show, July 1st. Dr. Siegel talks about cooking the numbers, cooking the books. So listen very closely to this. I'm going to go to my alternative right now, and please, gods of video, will you play? Let's see.
Hospitalizations are the highest they've ever been. One possible cause for that, Texas officials say that every hospital patient with the coronavirus is being counted in their hospitalization total, even if they're getting treatment for something completely different. It doesn't seem honest. What is going on? Fox medical contributor Dr. Mark Siegel has the very latest on this story. Hey, doctor.
Hi, Tucker. Tucker, it's being widely reported that there's over 40,000 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. It's been widely reported that the South and the West have been hard hit. It's been widely reported that Texas, Arizona, California, and Florida are reversing aspects of their reopening. It's been widely reported that Dr. Tony Fauci says we could see as much as 100,000 new cases a day. I'm not sure where that number comes from, but that's what he says. That's all been widely reported.
Okay, stop just for a second. This is one doctor doubting the numbers of another doctor. I wonder why that would be.
Here's what hasn't been reported. As the case counts are going up, the death rate remains under 700 per 24 hours per day of new cases. Why? Why is that? Because most of the people that are getting COVID-19 now are young people. And the CDC just released a statistic that, again, was not reported, that of the last 15,000 deaths from COVID-19, only 3.9% were under the ages of 44 years old. The same group that's now spreading it in Miami or spreading it in Austin, Texas, or spreading it in Phoenix. That group has mild cases. It's been widely reported as
mild cases in that group. I hope you're sitting down, because this is why, coming up, this video was removed.
As you just said, that the hospitalization rate is going up, but it's not reported that it's not mostly COVID-19. It's actually the cases that were there because of the reopening, because they're now getting the elective surgeries they need, cancer operations, heart disease operations, hernia operations. That they're filling the hospitals. Only the COVID-19 is actually getting in the way of that because these mild cases require isolation. Tucker, it's not been widely reported until now that our young people are bursting the bonds of all of this because of the excessive lockdowns. They're rebelling, and it's not good public health.
That's right.
Because of how depressed and anxious they are of having been locked down. So tell me, let me ask a question. Why is the whole story not being reported as I'm trying to do? Why?
You know why.
The answer is one word, Tucker: politics.
Bingo.
And I'm here, Tucker, to cut through the politics and bring you the science, to report on the science, Tucker.
That 5 to 6 minutes was worth YouTube, and I haven't even gotten to Facebook. I looked for it on Facebook. I looked for that segment specifically on Tucker Carlson's page. I couldn't find it, but I wanted to isolate that segment. 3 times YouTube removed that down, just for me, just for everybody, so that you couldn't hear that. I'll repeat what he said. Every patient in Texas with Wuhan 19 is being counted in their totals, even if they're getting treatment for something completely different. Skewed numbers, widely reported, but not reported. As the case numbers go up, and even those now are questionable, the death rate remains 700 per 24 hours per day of the new cases. Most of the people getting Wuhan 19 are young folks, not like me. The CDC just said of the last 15,000 deaths, 3.9% were under the age of 44 years old. The same group spreading it. The group has mild cases. And here was Dr. Siegel's kicker. Here's the reason that people don't want you to know this. The numbers are skewed. It has been widely reported that hospitalizations are going up. But it's not reported that it's not mostly Wuhan 19 cases. Why isn't this reported? One answer: politics. Everything that happens in an election year is about that election. True then, true now. It is a naked attempt to make President Trump look bad and to defeat him in November. It's no more than that. It is that plain and that simple. Sergeant Booker says politics, ding, ding, ding. Oh, hell yes. Claudia, welcome. Good to see you in chat. We know where the issues of science and race meet as well regarding Wuhan 19. Delineated by the historian Newsweek. Did you hear of this? Oregon County exempts non-white people from mandatory face mask order. Lincoln County in Oregon has exempted non-white residents from a new order mandating mask wearing in public in an attempt to counter racial profiling. Last week, health officials declared face coverings would be required in public settings where individuals may come within 6 feet of someone outside their household after the county saw a spike in coronavirus cases. On Tuesday, the county said people of color who have heightened concerns about racial profiling and harassment due to wearing face coverings in public will be exempt from this order because science knows, it realizes the Wuhan 19 virus is so incredibly intelligent that it can differentiate between white and blacks. Were you guys aware of that? That's one damn smart virus. That was based on declarations by, this is a visual, scientists as well. Officials who pushed strict lockdowns now argue protesters are an exemption. You got to stay home to save lives. You got to socially distance, and you got to lock down, unless you're protesting racism and police brutality. That appears to be the message from some government and health officials who for months enforced a rigorous and unprecedented economic shutdown in the name of stemming the spread of coronavirus, resulting in millions losing their jobs and students being sent home from schools all across the country. But as states just now begin to emerge from those lockdowns, some have argued in favor of an exemption to those guidelines for those people protesting the death of George Floyd. That's a name you're not going to hear much longer, guaranteed. Suggesting the gains from seeking police reforms outweigh the risks of a new surge in virus cases. I told you, and does this ever emphasize the Wuhan 19? It knows the difference between good people and bad people. Remember, here's the thing. All you racists have to stay inside and social distance, unless you're protesting racism. So only racists protesting racism and social distancing doesn't apply. You racist. Suddenly, public health officials say social justice matters more than social distance. And once that becomes the identifier through everything, then I think you and I kind of have an obligation. There shouldn't be a second lockdown. Because when you gave a pass to rioters and looters, you gave up your right to boss around citizens. I haven't worn a mask in a business. No more frantic warnings about viruses. No stay-at-home orders. No more closed businesses. Now, what this becomes is patriotic disobedience. Now, isn't that interesting? Who's going to enforce that? We'll get to that as well. Let's see, I got about 4 more minutes at the bottom of the hour. And I find that very interesting. Yeah, all you racists have to stay inside and social distance unless you're protesting racism. So only racists protesting racism, and social distancing doesn't apply. Comma, you racist. This is America on July 4th, 2020. Then we had hate crimes, right? So did we? We know Jussie Smollett's case was a fake hate crime. By the way, go to fakehatecrimes.org, fakehatecrimes.org, to find all your very favorites right there. We know Bubba Wallace's incident was a fake hate crime. The FBI said so. Oh, the FBI that the leftists seem to love. I haven't heard much said against the FBI, so apparently the FBI is still in the good graces of the LDAM. I wonder how much longer. Predominantly not reported also, if you recall, were the nooses that happened to be found in an Oakland park in California, always spell it with a K, where the nooses instead turned out to be pieces of exercise equipment that a black guy used to exercise with in a park. But the lies continued unabated. So I concluded, because of these continuing incidents, that racism in America is apparently so widespread that it requires manufacturing again and again and again and again. And this is America on July 4th of 2020. Then there's the very foundational issue of law enforcement in America, one's ability to defend yourself against violence. The Denver people decided to start that early. Federal judge orders Denver police to limit firing tear gas projectiles at peaceful protesters. All you protesters were peaceful protesters. You didn't loot. Ask that federal judge in Denver who issued an order that limits the Denver Police Department's use of chemical weapons and non-lethal projectiles on protesters, which would also include looters and rioters, saying that protecting the First Amendment rights were more important than protecting buildings. This is a quote from U.S. District Court Judge R. Brooks Jackson. The threat to physical safety and free speech outweighs the threat to property. So Jackson issues this 11-page ruling right after 4 protesters filed this lawsuit. So, as in his world, there is no real nonviolent free speech guarantees. There are no more peaceful protests. Free speech can be interpreted as rioting, burning, vandalizing, being forced to allow rioters to destroy whatever pieces of government or private property they wish. Guess what? Yours too, if you happen to have private property. Alexander, welcome to chat in Facebook. But here's the big kicker, the big elephant in the room that I'm going to tell you about tonight. The removal of qualified immunity for law enforcement officers. And it's coming from areas and venues that you would not suspect. This could quite easily and readily break the backs of officers throughout the nation, and the plan could just readily spread throughout the states. Would that be about the same time where I would say something similar to, but wait, there's more?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York. the lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
No surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It is July the 2nd, the year of our Lord 2020. And welcome back to the BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You know, you can follow me on Twitter at BZEP at BZEP. You can like me and follow me on my Facebook page, Bloviating Zeppelin. And by the way, do you happen to be a supporter of gun rights or the Second Amendment or firearms? You can be a member and you can join the USGOA, which is the U.S. Gun Owners Association, on Facebook. Great guy owns and runs that blog. Okay, let's... Sarah, welcome to Facebook chat. Let's turn this up a little bit more so I can hear better. There we go. if you folks haven't sussed out by now, BZ is a fair amount deaf. Almost completely deaf out my left ear, because that's the ear for years I kept my window down when I was in patrol so I could hear things. So I heard air all the time. And then when I was range master of a department, I lost my hearing there. And then I also lost my hearing in the 60s and 70s when I was in radio doing exactly what I'm doing right now, only listening to hard rock music with the volume turned up really, 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 really loud. I told you before the break, we're going to talk about the removal of qualified immunity for law enforcement officers, and that is one of the things that's going to break the back of law enforcement. And that's part of what they want. LDAM, leftist Democrats, the American media maggots, anarchists, Antifa, BLM, socialists, and communists et al. That's what they want to do, break the backs of law enforcement. Colorado started it. They reformed... And here's a story. This is from June 17th, not long ago, less than a month, about a couple of weeks. Colorado state lawmakers passed legislation on Saturday fundamentally changing policing in the state, and the governor is expected to sign it quickly, which he did. And that was SB 217. Now you might be asking yourself, what does SB 217 do? It removes qualified immunity. Under the new law, every officer in the state is going to wear a body cam by July of 2023. Now, let me stop right there, because initially, perhaps you would think that a body cam, that's a really good thing. Shouldn't every officer in law enforcement be wearing a body cam? Until I tell you that 50 to 60% of the 18,000 police departments, give or take, that are in the United States of America consist of 10 officers or less. That tells you about the kind of funding that they get. I also told you about departments when I was in the South and the Southeast, where I discovered officers buy their uniform, they buy their safety equipment, and they're issued a car mostly, and if it tanks, they have to repair it. And if you think that in 2020 that doesn't occur, well, it does. That kind of a mandate on a federal level would require that a bunch of entities, cities, and law enforcement agencies just go away. Because you have to purchase all the body cam units, you have to purchase the servers, you have to purchase the software and the computers, and that runs up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it isn't just get some body cams and you'll be fine. It's all the money that comes after that as well. Failure to activate the camera could result in criminal liability or other penalties. Hey, folks, you thought going to the bathroom as a cop wasn't going to be monitored? Guess again. The law creates timelines for the release of body cam footage, and it requires officers to intervene if they see another officer using excessive force or face a Class 1 misdemeanor or greater charge, according to the Denver Post. But here's the crux of the biscuit. The new law also removes qualified immunity protections for police officers, meaning that individual cops can be sued for actions taken in the course of doing their jobs and may violate an individual's civil rights. If a police department determines an officer acted in bad faith, they're going to hold the officer accountable for up to 5% or $25,000, whichever is less, of the settlement or judgment collected by the plaintiff, the Denver Post reported. Okay, you do know that a $25,000 bill can easily bankrupt a cop, right? Well, that's precisely the point. This leaves officers with no due process to avoid fines outside of their police department's review. A police officer or a police department can offer a larger settlement to a plaintiff and then force the officer to pay 5% of it, whatever that is. All the leftists and the Democrats in Colorado and across the nation, they're pissing their pants right now thinking we need this now in our state. Guess what? They want to get it real soon. Let me give you a glimpse of what will happen in the future because of this. Because, oh no, it's out on a life of its own. The natural path of this is going to be the demand that officers carry their own insurance policies, a lot like doctors, to protect against lawsuits. They're going to have to. Awards from lawsuits, by the way, as you, I'm sure, already know in law enforcement venues, are frequently the equal to, if not greater than those in medicine. So I looked at surgeons. I thought, let's do the math on this. Let's do a comparison. Surgeons, for example, they pay anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000 per year in premiums. Now, you contrast that with some agencies that pay officers anywhere between $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 a year, as compared to a senior surgeon who may make $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, $500,000 a year, depending upon their specialty. So basically what you have is an individual potentially entering a profession who will right off the bat lose money. Or what will probably happen is that people are going to avoid the profession altogether. Again, that's the goal of leftist Democrats, BLM, Antifa, anarchists, socialists, and communists. Make absolutely no mistake about that. We also know one thing. Each police car that burned, of the roughly 200 to 400 cars that were torched across the nation, or disabled or made, like undrivable or irreparable, that's one more car that's not going to be responding to a 911 call for you, for me. And because of all their various specialties, I'm sure everybody's done the math on this, leftists, all the various entities in the cities and counties. Those vehicles can range in cost from $45,000 to about $100,000 or more, and that's also dependent upon the kind of equipment that's carried inside those cars. That's millions and millions of dollars. That's not even counting any of the damage to buildings or any other equipment associated with law enforcement or a building. Things that won't be used to help you because they don't exist anymore. Yet, you got to remember things that you are going to get charged for because your tax dollars are the source. So if you happen to live in what I call an urban rat cage, managed by a leftist, you can be guaranteed that your taxes are going to explode. On TV, Cops was pulled. Live PD was pulled. Netflix yanked Gone with the Wind. This is America on July 4th, 2020. When Chicago was killed by days of protests and looting right after George Floyd, 18 people were killed on Sunday, May 31st, making it the single most violent day in Chicago in 60 years. According to the University of Chicago Crime Lab, that lab's data doesn't go any back further than 1961. From 7 p.m. Friday, May 29th through 5 a.m. Monday, June 1st, 25 people were killed in the city with another 85 wounded by gunfire, according to data maintained by the Chicago Sun-Times. This is America on July 4th, 2020. And with that, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she of the hair, my hair is much more important than you, told essentially her white alderman to go to hell with his community's silly-ass concerns. I had difficulty playing this the first time. I've found an alternate source for it. Let me see if my alternate source will play. And I've forgotten exactly where this is. Let me see here. Here we go. Let's see if I found it. Okay, I'm not going to wait for it. I don't have time to wait for it. So, let's mutter right along. LAPD homicides are up 250% the first week of June. Manufacturing companies are leaving Minneapolis because their buildings weren't protected. The wealthy are fleeing San Francisco. Wait a minute. I need a producer. Oh, my God, I need a producer. What you should have heard is the wealthy are fleeing San Francisco. But that's not what you heard because I don't have a producer. So let's motor right along. It's got to be racism,
I
right?
wonder what could be causing this story here from SF Gate. wealthy buyers reportedly in, quote, mad rush to leave San Francisco.
What?
What could possibly be happening in San Francisco that causes a bunch of rich people to try and flee the city? If only we knew. Man, that's a tough one. Yeah. In other news, San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott open to defunding police department. Oh, maybe that's it. Okay, there's a lot of reasons.
Okay, wait. Did you just hear what he said? You have a police chief who is open in San Francisco to defunding his own department. Are you fucking kidding me? I guess he really is that stupid. But all of it, it's got to be racism. Too much racism in San Francisco. But wait, leftists, let's do the math here. Leftists control nearly every major institution in America. That includes the mainstream media, what I call the American media maggots. That includes academia, education, upper and lower. That includes administrative governments all over. Courts, Hollywood, big tech, the Democrat Party, etc. So, if there is institutional racism, and it really does exist, whose fault would that be? And didn't we have a black president in for 2 terms, 8 years? Why is it still here? This is grand. You're going to enjoy this. I happen to catch it. And I'm going to play it until I can't take it anymore. Because it is kind of funny. And it is fun. And I'll tell you why. There's a huge slab of schadenfreude coming in this audio cut that I'm about to play. So there was this interesting kerfuffle, this tete-a-tete, back and forth, that you may have missed that occurred on the Hannity show. It was June 9th. On it, there is the wild-haired Professor Cornel West and civil rights attorney Leo Terrell. And they have opposing views, opposing viewpoints. Now, here's the schadenfreude bit. Terrell, a civil rights attorney, used to get on Hannity's show and yell at Hannity the same way he's yelling at this guy. Leo Terrell has actually come around to the realization that Democrats are destroying wholesale the United States of America. Terrell used to upbraid Hannity really, really loudly. And now, listen, this is just, this I think will play just fine. This is absolutely glorious.
Attorney Leo Terrell, along with the co-host of the Tightrope podcast, professor at the ever-prestigious Harvard University, Dr. Cornel West. Every liberal big city, Chicago, run decades by Democrats. Yeah. They've allowed the violence, and they have failed our American children with the most horrific schools in the country.
Okay, Cornel West is off and running.
They don't have enough housing, they don't have enough education, and they certainly don't have enough jobs with a living wage. That's under Rahm Emanuel. Now, I'm no fan of Rahm Emanuel. But I'm certainly no supporter, as you know, of you and your good friend, Brother Trump himself.
Why didn't Rahm Emanuel, why did he not fix the violence?
But I'm going to in the name of truth.
Okay, Leo, why didn't he fix the violence? Why haven't they fixed our broken school systems? We have failed America's children.
You know, Sean, you asked Dr. Cornel West the type of question you asked in a court of law. He won't answer them because he's just giving you old talking points. I'll speak to you, Dr. Cornel West, black man to black man. There's looting going on, and you try to conflate. No, it's my turn. It's my turn. You try to conflate protesting and police misconduct. And shame on you. And you're absolutely wrong. You won't address the issue. You will refuse to address the issue because I'm talking to you. You're not my brother. You're not my brother. You are hurting black people by acting this position. You are taking the wrong position. That's it. No, my brother. That stuff plays out. That plays out. Address the question. Do you? Oh my gosh! You have lost control. You're a dinosaur.
Did you hear that?
No, my brother. That stuff plays out. That plays out. Address the question.
Negro.
Do you? Oh my gosh! You have lost control. Yeah. You're a dinosaur. You're an outright dinosaur. You have lost it,
Check
sir.
yourself, Negro, and that's the high point of that conversation. Guess what? It only went downhill from there. Ever hear of a guy named John Clark? Maybe you have, or maybe you haven't. Happens to be a black dude. Don't really care, but he had a great quote. He said, "To control a people, you have to first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history and their culture. And when your conqueror makes you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison walls and no chains to hold you." This is America on July 4th of 2020. I wish I knew this man's name, but he spoke so powerfully. I, again, am crossing my fingers to make sure that this tech goes through.
Hypocritical, virtue-signaling Democrat leaders of America. You took the time to kneel for George Floyd so you could pretend to care about black people, but I know the truth you continue to ignore. So now allow me to call you on the carpet for your many failures in the black community that you refuse to acknowledge. How about kneeling to acknowledge that the worst riots and the worst instances of police brutality in this country are in your cities alone? You are the common denominator. How about kneeling to apologize for having some of the lowest minority, literacy, and graduation rates, but some of the highest single motherhood, abortion, and black-on-black crime rates in your own districts that you yourselves represent? How about kneeling for the millions upon millions of black children who never got a chance to live because your friends over at Planned Parenthood butchered them before they even had a chance to be born? How about kneeling for the untold numbers of my ancestors who were lynched by your former counterparts in the KKK for simply daring to ask to be treated as equals?
Oh, wait, this isn't a white guy. This is a black guy.
They didn't get justice. And even today, by kneeling and apologizing for your white privilege, you still don't treat us as equals. You feel like you have to apologize for your privilege because deep down, you still think that you're better than us by default. If you'd actually held your friend Amy Klobuchar accountable for not prosecuting Derek Chauvin when she had the chance to after he had 10 complaints filed against him in his 19 years with the Minneapolis police force, maybe George Floyd would still be alive. The fact of the matter is, if you had to take a knee for every black life lost needlessly due to your failed leadership, you would be on your knees forever. The only black lives that matter to you are the ones that fit your agenda. You know it, I know it, and the world knows it too. Your party is the one that filibustered for months to prevent the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Boom.
Your party is the one that only had 23% support of the 13th Amendment, which
Boom.
abolished slavery, and had 0% support for the 14th Amendment, which granted freed slave citizenship, and also 0% support for the 15th Amendment, which gave us the right to vote.
Boom.
The policies you have implemented have been the figurative knees on the necks of my people for centuries. And it is because of you and your failed leadership that many of us still can't breathe today. But I've got news for every last one of you. If you think all you have to do is shamelessly pander and kneel to get the support of people like me, if you think you can wear the kente cloths of the Ashanti, an African tribe known for selling their own people into slavery, if you think you can tear down statues and rename buildings and roads to hide your sordid history from everyone, if you think that's all it takes to win over my people, if you think our skin color will keep us from thinking critically, you've got another thing coming. I'm Damani Felder, and that was absolutely nothing but common sense.
Boom. Bingo. I love this cut that's coming up. This one is great. I was thinking about not including it in the show tonight. But because it's Candace Owens, yeah, I'm going to play it. Oh, it says video unavailable. Isn't this convenient? It says video unavailable. Sorry, this video couldn't be played. Now I just refreshed. Let's play it again and see if it will take.
Let me ask you something. Do you hate
Here we go.
with black skin color?
Stop.
Absolutely not.
Let me back it up. You got to hear the whole thing. This is glorious.
Let me ask you something. Do you hate Americans with black skin color?
Absolutely not. I actually love Americans with black skin color so much that I'm willing to fall on the sword 1,000 times for them to wake up and realize that we are being lied to, abused, and used by the Democrat Party.
I love this shit because that isn't the reply these guys expect.
I'm baffled because in the chairman's opening statement, he said that you openly associate with purveyors of hate.
Yes, purveyors of hate, by his definition, is anybody that supports the president. I support the president because he's done a tremendous job in helping the black community, despite all of the rhetoric from the media and leftists, which do not want him to be successful.
Tell me a little bit about how the president has helped the black community, if you would, please.
Well, he's lowered the black unemployment rate. It's the lowest it's ever been in the history. He's getting us off of our feet. We see, I believe the last number I checked was 3.5 million people.
Note to Demarest fucktards, never ask Candace Owen a question that you don't already think that she's going to field back at you. It's going to come back faster in your face than a highlight ball. Figure that one out.
People are off of food stamps, something that the Black Caucus sat down and didn't applaud. Neither did any of the Democrats applaud, because they want a system where blacks are dependent on the government. They are people that put in place the policies that broke down the black family. And the biggest problem that's facing our community is father absence. In every room that I've been in with the president, he talks about real issues, and he doesn't pander to us. He doesn't do Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's southern drawl accent and speaking to us like we're slaves. He asks us important questions, and the most important question he could have asked was, Black America, what do you have to lose? Because we were already losing under Democrat leadership. Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not pursue the full clip in its entirety. He purposely presented an extracted clip.
The witness will suspend for a moment. It is not proper to refer disparagingly or to a member of the committee. The witness will not do that again. Witness may continue.
Okay. I think you see where I'm going on this. It goes on for another 3 minutes. And of course, any and every question that is asked of her is returned at Mach 5 into the sides of all these leftists. Leftists are gleefully committing consumption, cannibalization of their own, as many who once thought they could can no longer pass the advanced leftist purity tests, the ALPTs, the advanced leftist purity tests. This is just one of many. North Face pulls ads from Facebook amid backlash over Trump ads. The North Face said on Friday it's no longer going to be publishing ads on Facebook amid backlash over the social media giant's policies. They actually let Trump have ads on Facebook. This is a quote. It's clear that Facebook and its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, are no longer simply negligent, but in fact complacent in the spread of misinformation, despite the irreversible damage to our democracy. What they called this was, quote, this is a, Sergeant Booker in SHR Media chat. Oh, Sergeant Booker said, you just need an 11-year-old to run your computer. I am so sad. So, they called this poor speech moderation. Okay, I've told you this before, and I'll tell you this again. Folks, I speak leftist. Let me translate for you. Poor speech moderation means you haven't clamped down on all the conservatives hard enough. You haven't censored enough speech, Zucky, you bastard. And so just be overjoyed in the fact that it's not just North Face. A whole ton, a plethora of businesses have fled Facebook because he's not slashing enough necks of conservatives and Trump. This is the delicious point. They accuse Mark Zuckerberg of being in league with President Trump. Oh, the exquisite irony, the dripping schadenfreude off of that. Facebook now is insufficiently left for the left. And then now Jimmy Blackface Kimmel is gone too as of June 19th. ABC's Jimmy Kimmel on that Thursday announced he will be taking the summer. This is an air quote. I speak leftist. Let me translate for you. He's going to be taking the summer off, air quotes, meaning I ain't never fucking coming back, for wearing blackface in a recurring skit he performed while working on The Man Show on Comedy Central. I think maybe I got enough time. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to come to the break here in just a moment. But this is joyous. But wait, there's more. Jeff Bezos, owner of the Washington Post and Amazon. Activists set up a guillotine outside of his home. They knew where he lives. They called for an end to Amazon. Jeff Bezos was targeted 2 Sundays ago by activists who set up a guillotine outside his Washington, D.C. home, called for an end to the exploitation of company employees. In front of the guillotine was a sign reading, "Support our poor communities, not our wealthy men." Can black men be betrayers, be betrayers and not pass the leftist purity test? I think we need to find out when we come back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian, sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. Thanks to everybody watching tonight. I want to know what you guys think of the new SHRmedia.com website. Sean worked diligently on that. I think he did an absolutely stupendous job. According to all the information that I'm getting, it works. It's awesome. You can watch the show on the SHR Media face page, right on the home page. You can go to listen live and chat. You can listen to Spreaker right there. You can watch the show on YouTube right there. And also, while I'm talking about it, make sure you hit us up on YouTube. Follow us. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a big old thumbs up for that kind of stuff. If you are also on Facebook, I recommend going to the USGOA, which is the U.S. Gun Owners Association. If you're interested in firearms, you're on Facebook. Great articles, pro-Second Amendment, pro-First Amendment, pro-U.S. Constitution, pro-Bill of Rights, USGOA, U.S. Gun Owners Association. And I am also very, 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 very active on Twitter, at BZEP, at BZEP. Before we broke, I said, can a black man be a betrayer and not pass the leftist purity test? Apparently so. Terry Crews. This is from June 30th. Terry Crews faces backlash again for Black Lives Matters tweets. What did he say? Now, he's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And apparently that show is going to change too, if it's still going to come back. He's on that show, Terry Crews. He's facing the ire of social media again on Tuesday after sending out another controversial tweet about the Black Lives Matter movement. Oh, my God, what did Terry Crews said? If you're a child of God, you are my brother and sister, he wrote. I have a family of every race, creed, and ideology. Oh, then he added, we must ensure Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better. Now, if I had a producer, what you would have heard would have been, did he say that? Apparently so. And Terry Crews. But I don't have a producer, so that isn't what you heard. And the WCM, the woke child mob, leftist camshafts, were thrown all across the USA. Mostly on the coasts, of course, because this is America on July 4th of 2020. There's a very clear indication that leftist city governments, they don't want cops doing their jobs. And there's two types of police work, as pretty much everybody knows. Generally, of law enforcement. There's proactive and reactive. Reactive means you get the call, they send it in, the cops show up, okay? Proactive means the cops go out and they search for crime. They look for things. And sometimes they don't wear uniforms, and that apparently is real bad. Shootings in New York City amid the disbanding of the NYPD's plainclothes unit, anti-crime unit, skyrocket. Also, I'm not going to go into the entire article, but I am going to mention this. I would recommend that you guys look into it. Yeah, Sarah Nichols says, yeah, you can't write this shit. You got that right. And Alaskan in SHR chat says, happy 2nd of July, the day that declared America independent. Yeah, that's a story in and of itself, which I was thinking about doing tonight, but instead I chose this. There's an article from frontpagemag.com. And I would highlight, it's by Robert Spencer. And if you don't know Robert Spencer, he writes and illuminates Islam, much to the chagrin of almost every Muslim. But this is an article under this aegis, which says, Minnesota State Representative, Antifa and Muslim groups plan to police Minneapolis under Muslim rule. Robert Spencer wrote, it would have sounded far-fetched just weeks ago. It doesn't anymore. As the city of Minneapolis moves to dismantle its police force, and make no mistake, they are going to do that, I believe. Minnesota State Representative Steve Green on Tuesday stated the obvious that virtually everybody else has been tiptoeing around and pretending isn't there. What you're looking at, in my humble opinion, is communism moving into Minneapolis and St. Paul. And not just communism, but the leftist Islamic alliance. Green asserted that Antifa and Muslim organizations plan to police Minneapolis under Muslim rule. That means Sharia law. If you're not familiar with that, look it up. So Spencer writes, those who scoff at such a notion are not paying attention to recent developments. I will let you do your own investigation into that. There's so much to that article. And of course, because it's July 4th in America in 2020, it's time to tear down anything associated with the positive aspects of law enforcement. Because clearly cops are all racists, considering that whites are 40% of NYPD and minorities are now the majority, comma, you 40% racists. Now we have in Vancouver, Washington, this is the headline, Washington community honors officers with signs, and the police chief rips them down because it's divisive. And a huge membership of the Vancouver community came together to honor, support, and love the police there. The officers felt that love. They felt lifted. They felt gifted and appreciated in a way that they haven't felt in a long time. And that very same day, the Vancouver chief of police, Chief James McIlvaine, basically spit in all of their faces. After that went on, the individual who wrote this article said, I got home, my phone rang, my heart skipped a beat, because when I hear my phone ring, I'm thinking that it's going to be something bad that happened to either my husband or someone else who's an officer. Thank God it wasn't about that. It definitely wasn't good news. So the officer that called said that Chief McIlvaine of Vancouver PD ordered everything that was put up by the families there in the communities to be taken down because it was divisive. Divisive. Chief McIlvaine decided to follow the Clark County Sheriff's Atkins pandering footsteps and ban Thin Blue Line and all associated graphics of that from being displayed inside or outside the precincts, on cars, or on morning bands. Well, it gets better than that. There's an HOA that has now banned a police chaplain's Thin Blue Line flag, calling it a White Lives Matter symbol. A Denver Homeowners Association has ordered a local police chaplain to remove the Thin Blue Line flag from his property, even while allowing neighbors to fly similar flags for other first responders and the military. The chaplain, who's going to remain nameless and anonymous for sadly obvious reasons, flew his Thin Blue Line flag since National Police Officers Day in May. And he told journalists, I believe that's why I'm being targeted, because I'm associated with them. I believe it's because of everything that's going on in the world right now and this country. The notice from the HOA insisted the well-known flag flown to show support for police officers is actually, and this is a quote from the HOA memo, a White Lives Matter symbol. This is America on July 4th of 2020. Now more people are getting into it. We know the state of Colorado removed qualified immunity from its law enforcement officers. Now, a GOP senator, Mike Braun, is advocating the same thing. He's not the only one. Senator Braun's bill would change qualified immunity for police, and here's what it would mean. U.S. Senator Mike Braun introduced, let's see, when was this article? June 23rd. He introduced a bill taking aim at qualified immunity, a controversial standard that protects police officers and other government officials from being sued for alleged misconduct. Qualified immunity can be used as a defense to avoid lawsuits as long as the accused's behavior doesn't violate existing and clearly established laws or constitutional rights. I speak leftist. Let me translate. What that means is what another reasonable officer would do in a similar situation. So now those actions of another reasonable officer are out of bounds. Braun said the current interpretation of the standard is overly broad and allows law enforcement in many of the high-profile excessive force and abuse of power cases to avoid civil suits. What did I tell you earlier? That the ramifications from the Colorado bill would be: his bill would allow qualified immunity to be used as a defense only if the officer's conduct is already protected by law or a previous court ruling. So now it's going to come down to tort law. Period. Tort law. As Mike Braun said on Tucker Carlson, basically what he's saying is anymore there is no real thing as a
you've seen in
as a reasonable officer.
No institution in American life has come under more ferocious attack from the mob than local police departments. In Minneapolis, police are being abolished entirely. In Los Angeles and New York, their funding is being slashed dramatically. In cities around the country, monuments to the police are being vandalized or ripped down. In the city of Atlanta, Officer Garrett Rawl faces the death penalty for shooting a man called Rayshard Brooks after Rayshard Brooks stole his taser and fired it at him. So what do Republican office holders...
Okay, stop right there. This is what Tucker Carlson should have said. Under Georgia law, a taser is considered the wielding of deadly force. When the man turned and fired the taser, that was the utilization of deadly force against the officer. Again, don't trust the media. Do all the research yourself. Tucker Carlson gets it mostly right, but very valuable details are frequently left out that are crucial to the overall aspect of each individual set of circumstances.
Doing in the face of this unprecedented attack on our laws and on public safety itself? Well, not a lot. Few have stepped up to defend the police from totally bogus accusations of, quote, systemic racism. Some are repeating that slur. One Republican, though, has gone farther than that. As we told you last week, Senator Mike Braun of Indiana has introduced legislation to make it easier for left-wing activists to sue police officers. We must do this, Senator Braun explained, in part because Rayshard Brooks' death was egregious.
I wanted to put a template out there that protects law enforcement from frivolous lawsuits, but holds the egregious departments and individuals accountable in these egregious, instances of a George Floyd, a Rayshard Brooks, a Breonna Taylor.
But wait, there's more.
In case you suspect we somehow selectively edited that clip, here's Republican Senator Braun going all the way in endorsing Black Lives Matter.
Here we go.
You support the Black Lives Matter movement.
I support that movement because it's addressing an inequity that has not been solved, from a grassroots level.
Stop right there. You may as well hear this. I haven't said it, and I should have all along. Black Lives Matter is an organization that was founded upon a lie. It is a racist organization that favors one race over another. They don't want to hear that all lives matter. Either everyone is equal or no one is equal. That is my foundational thrust here. And if you think black lives are worth more than anybody else, you're a racist, just as I would be called. Therefore, Black Lives Matter is a fundamentally racist organization created on a lie of hands up, don't shoot. Now, can I be any more clear than that?
After our segment on Thursday, Senator Braun asked to come on this show to detail his position. Of course, we're happy to have him. Senator Braun, thanks so much for coming on. Before I ask you about qualified immunity and your attempts to water it down, I was very surprised by that endorsement that you gave on camera of Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter has, of course, called for the murder of police officers. Why do you support it, and are there any other race-specific revolutionary movements that you support?
Oh, Braun thinks that's funny.
Tucker, thanks for having me on in the first place. I know when you came out, and I like it when somebody does challenge, especially something like this, when you're talking about changing something that's been around for a while. And Tucker, I come from Main Street. Your viewers are my supporters.
and have got one of the most conservative
I don't know
voting
about that.
records. No, that's true.
Okay.
You'd have to.
Okay, I'm going to play this as far as when he gets to the point where he lies. And then I'm going to tell you about his lie. Because today and the day before, the people involved that he lied about exposed his lie. GOP Senator, Republican Mike Braun lied. And I will expose his lie. Therefore, when can you trust him? He lied.
To check with them, just like I checked with the Indiana State Police, Indiana Sheriff's Association, Return or Order Police, spent over an hour with them last week to make sure I wasn't off base. And here's where I come from.
That's funny because those organizations said, no, you didn't.
I'm sorry, I'm confused really quick. Hold on. You're off base in your support of Black Lives Matter, your endorsement that you just gave? Have you read their website? Or are you in favor of abolishing the nuclear family? What do you support exactly in the Black Lives Movement?
No, I'm not at all.
What does that mean?
I support anybody that does have...
I support anybody that potentially is going to put a gun to my head and pull the trigger. I support BLM because I am a coward. I am a craven coward. That's why I support BLM. I don't care what you say about what BLM supports. I don't care that they're a racist organization. I am living in fear, and therefore the people that are the least able to defend themselves politically, cops, I'm going to go out of my way to excoriate because, hey, that's what we do in America on July 4th of 2020.
A grievance to be able to air it, and that's it. That doesn't mean all lives don't matter. It just means that if you think a certain sector of society has a grievance, it ought to be through transparency and the willingness to debate it and get it out there. I'm going to always go on the merits of the particular case. And going back to what I learned last week, first of all, law enforcement in Indiana was talking about eliminating it or drastically modifying it. This was to find that sweet spot to where they said they are being unduly stigmatized because of these events, because in some cases their own aren't held accountable. And when they knew that, they basically said, we need to be in the discussion. Look how we got rolled with Obamacare when we refused to discuss it 10 years ago.
I'm sorry. We just showed tape of you, Senator, saying that we need to pull back. We need to make it easier to sue the police because of, quote, egregious incidents like the death of Rayshard Brooks.
True.
You said you wanted to speak about specifics. Do you believe that he was killed unjustly? Do you believe Officer Rolfe deserves the death penalty, which he now faces? What did you mean by that? Please.
I believe you ought to have the ability to, just like when anyone's civil rights would be violated, that you've got access to due process, to have your case heard.
But they do. But they do have that right. Qualified immunity, hold on. Qualified immunity has nothing to do with that case. He's been charged. They have the right to sue him under qualified immunity, as you know, since you're writing the change to the law. So that's irrelevant. I'm asking.
Okay, stop right there. Let me tell you about a change to the law. Are you guys familiar with federal law? Because I am. I've been tried under this. Go and look up 42 U.S.C. 1983. It's a Deprivation of Civil Rights Act. Under that, the feds pay attorneys to sue people for deprivation of civil rights. Go back to the Rodney King case. I was an index case. Not going to tell you anything about it because that's none of your fucking business. But I can tell you about this. He's going to create an act on a federal level like an 1983 action, and part and parcel of his act is going to be we're going to fund attorneys just like a 1983 action. We're going to pay attorneys to sue cops.
About the case, you cited it. Do you believe that the officer now facing the death penalty deserves to face the death penalty? And if you don't, tell us what he should have done.
I think that's going to be determined by the court. And when it comes
to
that
civil... You cited it. So wait, hold on. You cited it. What do you think of it? You're the one who called it egregious, so why don't you tell us what Officer Rolfe should have done when this man fired a taser at him? What do you think?
And again, Tucker misses the point again. At this spot he should have inserted, and a taser under Georgia law is considered a deadly weapon. Every bit as deadly as if you used your car to run somebody down. Every bit as deadly as if you pointed a handgun or another deadly weapon at an individual. You missed your opportunity.
I think that you probably should have had the judgment that in a traffic stop like that, you don't shoot somebody in the back. So if we keep...
Number one, it's not a traffic stop. Number two, he was drunk in an automobile. If they let him go away, he went through, grabbed his cheeseburger, and then out onto the highway, he kills somebody else. If it was discovered that the officers knew he was drunk, let him go, they would also be subject to suit criminally and civilly. So shut the fuck up, Braun.
Keep doing that.
So what should he have... Wait, hold on. No. I want you to explain. I think it's fair. You're an office holder. I don't normally press people like this, but it's not fair for you to filibuster without answering my question, which is very simple. The officer facing...
Wonder what Mad thinks about that.
...the death penalty had a guy fire a weapon at him. What should he have done then?
Probably not have killed the guy. And that'll come out.
So what should he have done?
This is the crux of the biscuit. No leftist will ever tell you that. Braun won't. Braun can't. He's never been there. He's a leftist. Oh, am I going to wrap up with that tonight?
He should have probably
You're the
not.
one saying it's egregious. Let him go.
Do you think he was going to get away? They were going to find him.
You tell me. You're the one judging the officer. So maybe you could explain why you're judging him.
The bill.
Tucker, that'll all come out in the court process. And all I'm saying, let me finish this. If we don't get better at it, for all of us on Main Street, Democrats are going to spin it. Chuck Schumer's already decided he can.
Now, are the curtains starting to come off? His motivations behind this? Listen to his true base motivations for doing this. It's not for the goodness of the public. It's not for the cops. It's not for Brooks. It's about him.
Make hay of this in the election, and we'll end up on the short side of it again. If you're wanting to say
who controls
absolutely,
the Senate? Does Chuck Schumer control it? I thought Republicans controlled the Senate. And so,
this is a fear bill, a bill based in fear of he and other individuals like him, yellow craven cowards, losing their job.
You're taking your cues from Chuck Schumer? You're saying Chuck Schumer might criticize me, therefore I have to pass a law that makes it easier to sue police?
Tucker, you know you have to have 60 votes in the Senate to get anything
this
done.
Is funny.
You can check my record.
They're about
I'll
to change
stand
that
on
when
it.
they take over.
And even law enforcement in
bet.
Indiana thinks that in some of these cases it's giving them a bad name, and bad apples ought to be there ought to be due process there for the victim.
So what law enforcement groups are endorsing your bill?
Oh, yeah.
They're not endorsing it, but they said it was a good template to work from.
But why aren't they endorsing it then? You've cited them twice as supporters of this idea, but they're not endorsing your bill, so they don't actually support it. So why are you bringing them up as evidence that it's a good idea?
They think it's a better idea to be in the discussion than be outside of it.
But if you care what they think, why don't you write something they'll endorse?
And that doesn't necessarily mean we won't get there. That's not going to be done today. The Democrats now think they can win with it in the election, and that's why we needed to be engaged now in a way that would have kept it on the table.
So you need to write a bill that law enforcement won't endorse. The country's burning, not because cops are burning it down, but because the mob is. But you think the morally culpable party is the police, so you're making it easier for left-wing groups to sue them. Am I missing something?
You are missing it, but you're trying to put words in my mouth.
Oh, no, he's not. Stop right there. Here's something that I just looked up because I was curious. I didn't know the name, so I just went to go look it up, and we'll be taking a break here in a moment. This is from WIBC.com. FOP President Snyder, law enforcement was not consulted on Senator Braun's Reforming Qualified Immunity Act legislation. I repeat, for those of you who just tuned in, Braun lied.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for being here tonight. This is the Thursday night edition of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. I am BZ, one each, the fat, ubiquitous bastard sitting behind this microphone right now, listened to by 2 or 3 people, although Jeremy convinces me that I get anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 people that are listening, because Facebook's job is to make sure that they throttle the crap out of all of us. Of that, I have no doubt. Now, I was talking about the lovely GOP Senator Mike Braun, who decided it's a great idea to federally remove qualified immunity. And you heard him lie to you on Tucker Carlson. But wait. As I said to Sarah in Facebook chat, but wait, there's more. It's not just Mike Braun. It's also my former Congress critter. From California, always spell it with a K, Republican Tom McClintock. And apparently I just found out he's been wanting to do this for years. Oh, Tom, if only I knew. I wouldn't have written you any checks. No more money for you. Tom McClintock supports efforts to get rid of qualified immunity. Representative Tom McClintock is one of the rare Republicans in office who speaks for the conservatives in California, but this time he is siding with Congress's liberals in an effort to overturn the qualified immunity that can protect police and other state and local officials. You did hear that too, right? On the other issues of this, it's not just about police. The extension is it can protect police and other state and local officials from civil lawsuits. Good old California. As I say, it's the land of the free and the home of the slaves. Then this is from Law Officer. Sheriff, this goes hand in hand. Remember the Vancouver chief who said Blue Lives Matter, gotta go. Here's a sheriff in the same county, in the same area, Clark County, Washington, who ordered the removal of all thin blue line flag material and graphics from county equipment. The material is sometimes flown as a flag, attached as a sticker, or weaved into material for a variety of forms. All of that material is now removed from anything associated with the Clark County Sheriff's Office. In a directive sent out late last week, Sheriff Chuck Atkins told all workers that fall under the Clark County Sheriff's Office to remove all thin blue line material from uniforms, cars, and buildings. This, of course, as I said, went hand in hand with Vancouver PD's Chief McIlvaine's edict. This is America on July 4th of 2020, but let's not leave out attorney generals. No, let's not leave them out of the mix. Democrat Attorney General letting America burn is the path to growth. Massachusetts Attorney General Maura Healey, a Democrat. Wait a minute. This is what you would have heard or should have heard if I had a producer. Healey, a Democrat. But you didn't hear it because I don't have a producer, so like I said, that really isn't what you heard. She refused to denounce the violent riots occurring nationwide, likening them to the purifying effects of a forest fire. Yes, she said, America is burning. But that's how forests grow. She says we need to seize the opportunity and rid the country of institutional racism. Institutional racism. And not to be outdone, Virginia decided that it was past due time to invite more assaults on law enforcement officers, almost begging criminals to commit violence against them. Virginia Democrats want to reduce charges for assaulting a police officer. There are currently 28 proposals from the Senate in Virginia, from the Democrats, from their caucus, to reform law enforcement systems, one of which is something so really stupid and egregious that it should be put to bed once and for all, but no. Virginia Senate Democrats want to reduce the charge of assault on a police officer to a simple misdemeanor. That would abolish the current law that states that assaulting a police officer is a Class 6 felony with a mandatory minimum of 6 months in prison. Governor Blackface, note to you, good fucking luck recruiting cops to your state. Colorado, ditto. From lawofficer.com, Louisville police ordered under threat of suspension to remove protective equipment. What? Officials made public statements that no overnight camping would be allowed in Jefferson Square Park, and laws would be enforced to prohibit further violence and conflict in Louisville. Louisville police officers stood waiting to take necessary enforcement action and restore order. According to a statement by the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police, officers were ordered to remove protective equipment up to and including ballistic-rated helmets and approach an unruly crowd with a soft approach. The order was preceded with the, quote, threat of immediate suspension. This is America on July 4th of 2020. In New York, it's official. $1 billion have been cut from the NYPD. Gone. Boom. Done. This is America on July 4th of 2020. But also, City Council Speaker Kerry Johnson said he stands with the protesters who are not going to be leaving in front of City Hall. He was disappointed, saying he's committed to holding the mayor's feet on the fire on this and continue to work for reform. I wanted us to go deeper. I wanted us to take a larger headcount reduction. I wanted a true hiring freeze. I wanted us to cancel additional classes. But this is a budget process that involves the mayor, who would not budge on those items, he continued. So what did they get immediately? The NYPD's July class of more than 1,100 potential recruits is canceled. Overtime is going to be reduced. Crossing guard, school safety, and homeless outreach is going to be shifted out of the department and to other areas. This is America on July 4th of 2020. Well, you can't leave California, spell it with a K, out, right? Oakland Unified School District votes to eliminate its police department. Oakland, California. You know, the home of the Black Panthers. Hand me the damn popcorn. This is going to go so good. A virtual meeting was held Wednesday night on whether the city's school district, Oakland, would eliminate the Oakland Schools Police Department. This is an historic moment, letting go of the issue of law enforcement that has oppressed our communities for centuries. It's critically important. The district voted OUSD police gone by the end of the year. Right on to Oakland. From Oakland to Berkeley. Berkeley felt ignored. Berkeley in California, always spell it with a K, Berkeley City Council, passed a budget with $9.2 million in cuts to the police. Mayor Jesse Araquin proposed the cut just as the Oakland City Council took steps to further slash its own police budget. Oh, Jesse Araquin? He's the guy that ordered Berkeley PD to step down in the face of riots. He's also an Antifa member. You should know that. Enough? Enough? Huh. The city council members decided to amend the budget for Berkeley on July 21st after activists said the reduction wasn't enough, wasn't sufficient. So then let's go down to Los Angeles. LA school police chief resigns in response to deep budget cuts. The chief for the nation's second largest school district resigned one day after board officials voted to slash his department's budget. So he's gone. Studies have proven and shown that no systemic police racism, despite the propaganda by the American media maggots and politicians on both sides of the aisle, there is no proof of widespread racial bias. Dare I go here? Stats. In 2019, there were more than 10 million arrests in the United States. Of those 10 million plus arrests, 1,004 ended in the suspect being fatally shot. Most were armed. Of the 1,004 that were fatally shot, 41 were unarmed. Of the 41 unarmed suspects who were shot, 9 were black, 19 were white, and the other 13 were Hispanic, Asian, etc. Meanwhile, in 2019, 89 police officers were shot and killed in the line of duty. The whole narrative of systemic racism, the data doesn't support the claim. And several really thorough studies don't support that claim either. Okay, let me state the obvious as well. I haven't seen one shred of evidence that says that white police officer, don't even know his name, don't really care, who had his knee on George Floyd's neck, or the other 3 non-white officers who helped to hold Floyd down, acted out of racism. George Floyd was killed by these officers. I am not going to dispute that in the slightest. It appears to be an excessive use of force issue, abuse of power, a callous disregard for Floyd's health. And even that investigation obviously hasn't concluded. No one really needs to defund the police. Democrats and leftists are actively working to make it the most untenable job in America, whereby no intelligent person would ever want to do it. That's the goal. The reverse may actually be true. Police are going to defund themselves by choosing not to appear for work, to retire early, or resign. I'm going to go into a little bit of an aside that I hadn't planned to, but I'm going to now because it's my damn show. I'm going to say this, and I have said this to cops today before. None of us took the job for the kudos or the praises or the pats on the back or the hugs. We predominantly didn't get it, and we didn't expect it. In 1978, when I was working in law enforcement, I made $5.93 an hour. I got a 35-cent an hour shift differential for working graveyards. What we did, however, expect is to be treated like adults. We expected to be allowed to do our jobs, to be supported when we were correct, and then, we ought to be smacked when we aren't. We expected to support the social construct. We expected to safeguard lives and property, use discretion, document crimes, arrest criminals, protect the communities. That social construct we once had has since dissolved. Law enforcement officers, they're one bad call away from having their lives ruined, their families ruined, prosecuted for doing what 99% of all the other cops would have done in a very similar situation. Cops are human beings, and as such, they make mistakes. They are not robots. But when the cards are stacked so incredibly distinctly against them, to the point where the department, the community, the media, mayors, and the governors, they don't want you to do your job. Why are you in law enforcement in the first place? NYPD disbanded their plainclothes unit. As I said, they proactively policed. Local and national cops have been told for so long that they over-police that they have mostly decided to push the button to acknowledge each call as dispatched, and that's it. I'm going to give you a little known secret. My department, my former department, I have been told that officers, deputies, when they get assigned a call, they get sent from a particular station to go out and they handle a call, and they come back into the station parking lot, and they sit and put it into P for park and wait for the next car. Wait for the next call. That's how law enforcement ought to be conducted, don't you think? No self-initiated activity. No proactive policing. So we know where this has gotten the nation, right? Look at Chicago. Look at Baltimore. Look at Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Minneapolis, New York. Murders are up. Property crimes have skyrocketed. Overall crime is going crazy. There comes a time in a given profession where people don't want you to do the job, and further, you are personally, individually, and collectively targeted for violence, poisoning, ambush, assassination, prosecution for defending yourself. Maybe it's time to find a new profession. Is it the duty of an individual, any individual, in any job, to have their lives destroyed and that of their families in order to make a paycheck? Because there are so many other jobs for people to choose. The job, I can tell you, after having done it for 41 years, is tough enough, and it eats more than a sufficient number of souls under ideal, perfect conditions, which don't exist. So add all these additional current stressors, and you have a recipe for disaster. I can tell you for a fact, humans, are not built to work for 20 or 30 or 40 years under conditions like these. NGH, not going to happen. 2 cops, 2 recruits, 2 potential cops. Get out while you still can. Because one of BZ's axioms, which goes like this, commit less crime, get less shot, is resonating with not too damn many people today. It's pretty simple. If you've decided not to support the police, they can easily decide not to support you. This is America on July 4th of 2020. And I haven't really said this, and I need to say this now. I might go into a little bit of overtime just to let you know. Democrats are the enemy of the United States. They are the enemy every bit as much as China. I could say they're even more insidious because they are dissolving America from within due to their hatred of everything American. Democrats hate the Founding Fathers. They hate the U.S. Constitution. It doesn't provide them enough power. It exists to hinder government, not grow it. Your rights, they stem from God, not government. They despise that foundational concept. They want you to revere government, to bow and scrape before government, to kneel before government and your superiors. They hate the First Amendment. They don't embrace free speech. They want normal people muzzled, you and me, for speaking our minds. Their social media giants do it for them. If they had the power, they'd imprison you for speech. Guaranteed. How much in the future before that comes? I say that's coming on this current wild ride. If they could get away with it, they would burn physical books. At this point, they don't even have to. They don't even have to go Fahrenheit 451. If they want to eradicate history one day, they could do it with the flip of a switch, and everything you own in the cloud is gone. Fiction they don't like, gone. History they don't like, gone. Movies they don't like, already gone. Hello, Netflix. If you think you own your content, you own nothing. It's digital. It's air. It's nothing. Books are a guarantee. I have thousands of books. Books are a guarantee that immure history and thoughts in the physical world. But leftists and Democrats, the Democrats are working on that to eliminate that. De Blasio has said he doesn't believe you should own property. Communists don't believe in the concept of private property. All property belongs to the state. You belong to the state. Democrats hate the Second Amendment. It is the right that stops them from immediately removing your free speech. That's their goal. Removing your free speech wholesale. Only one speech allowed. There's only some thoughts. There's firearms protect your speech and your family and your property. Hunting can be damned. Guns are to be used against a treasonous, tyrannical government. They hate your firearms, and if they had the power, they would break into your home and forcibly take them. You tell me if you don't think this is true. Altogether, too many Americans would surrender them. And sadly, altogether, too many law enforcement officers would obey that rule to do so. Even one officer doing that is too many. They hate your firearms, but they still fear your firearms. Good. Government should fear the people. People should not fear their government. Democrats exist to remove your freedoms, to remove your liberties, occasionally deigning to sell them back to you at a terrible price. You will pay it. Think about this. I ask this frequently to a lot of people. When was the last time a Democrat expanded your freedom or liberty? Think hard. Reduced government. Respected your rights instead of trampling on them. There is a very important lesson to be learned from President Trump. If government in concert with the media, that's another issue altogether for another day, could array itself against what I have said for a long time, since 2017, if they could all array themselves against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president, essentially a soft coup, because firearms weren't involved yet. And then government, that government could crush you in an instant, and it wouldn't give two thoughts about it. You're a bug. Never kneel before the mob. Never kneel before Democrats. Never appease them. Never capitulate. Never prostrate yourself, because they will take and they will take and they will take, and they can never be appeased. I repeat, Democrats are the enemy. There is no shielding this truth anymore. No trying to sugarcoat it or downplay it. Democrats are, in no uncertain terms, they are the enemy. They despise you, me, normal people, actual Americans. I couldn't care less about anybody's paint job. This isn't about color. It's about holding our country. A republic, if we can keep it. It's about our liberties, our rights, our freedoms, the very things that so many others are willing to put their lives on the line to enjoy. If this country is by its very nature so inherently evil, so racist, so misogynistic, why would people even care to come here? We got to realize that the very things that people all around the planet are fleeing, Democrats are working to institute against you right now. Socialism, communism, massive impersonal governments who exist to remove the rights of people and simultaneously acquire more power, more control, more personal wealth for themselves. Russian dachas. Go look that up. The term dacha, D-A-C-H-A. Never kneel for the mob. Never kneel before Democrats. Never attempt to appease them, capitulate to them, acquiesce to them. We're seeing the results in Seattle today. Anarchy, chaos, the repression of people, crimes against people, rapes, the subjugation of taxpayers, killings, murders, destruction of property. You and I have been thinking about this for some time, but I'm saying it now. Finally, Democrats are the enemy. This is America, July 4th, 2020. There can be no bipartisanship or compromise with those persons who wish to completely destroy the country. Don't listen to what I term the American media maggots as November nears. They want you disillusioned. They want you depressed. They want you to listen to all the pissy little polls. They want you to stay inside from the polls and from casting your ballots. They're going to tell you President Trump is so far ahead that your vote isn't necessary. Or they're going to tell you that he's so far behind that your vote is immaterial. Don't believe the American media maggots. Because so-called modern journalism, this is what it's all about now. Modern journalism is all about deciding which facts the public is not going to be able to know because they might reflect poorly on the Democrats. Poor babies. One of those facts being, as you heard before, 1964, on the floor of the U.S. Senate, Democrats held the longest filibuster in the history of the United States. 75 days, all trying to prevent one thing. What was that? Oh, that's right, the Civil Rights Act. We know the election in November is binary. We're voting for Trump. Or we're voting for what may look like Joe Biden, but will truly instead, it's going to be his handlers or whomever is chosen to run as Biden's VP. That is going to be the Democrat. Evil, pulling the strings in the White House Oval Office, which they may change. This translates to Trump, or this translates to voting for Trump. Or because, like I said, it's binary, or voting for the destruction of what civilization exists in the United States. And by dint of that, by extension of that, the destruction of most any kind of Western civilization. It's going to start here. We're voting for creativity versus demolition. We're voting for freedom versus socialism, which any clear-thinking person knows leads immediately to communism. Because the ultimate goal is not any kind of police reformation. $1 billion cut from the NYPD budget. Not enough. Elimination of the Minneapolis Police Department. Not enough. Defunding as many police departments across the country as possible. Not enough. Removing any protections figuratively or, as we now know, literally, physically, that law enforcement has. No, that's not enough. Police reformation. That's a temporary excuse. Here's what's going to happen. George Floyd was a tool, long used and now soon to be long discarded. By this time next year, probably, I don't know, I'm saying maybe 6 months or less, nobody is going to remember his name. Nobody's going to care. Because the criticality, if Democrats win in November, will be so much worse. Here's another terrible little aspect that nobody's going to talk to you about. Just as no one cares, least of all the Democrats, about all the black lives lost in Chicago or in Seattle, in Chaz Chop, with a guy named Horace Anderson. Black kid. Ever hear his name? Nah. Who cares? Or New York, or Atlanta, or any urban rat cage where the greatest mortal enemy of black males are other black males, not cops. You would think, though, that this binary decision is going to mean the Republicans, knowing this, are stalwart supporters of President Trump. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The Republicans continue with their history of spineless cowardice, conveniently leaving, this is so you can track them. This is so you know where they've been. They're conveniently leaving a little puddle of yellow piss behind wherever they go, wherever they've been. If they're walking, look for their soiled pants or their pantsuits, or listen for the squishy sounds from an assorted collection of shoes, male and female. There are a couple left who still have guts and courage. Off the top of my head, and I'm not thinking clearly right now, I'm going to say Tom Cotton and the dude with one eye, Dan Crenshaw. My fetid little brain, like I said, is in overtime. It's retracting, trying to think of any more. I'm sure there's some more. The rest of them need to be dumped and changed faster than a baby with crab cake diarrhea. Altogether, way too many Republicans, even my once admired Tom McClintock, are taking pandering and cowardice to new heights, or maybe I should say to new depths. They're frightened Not of you, Republicans. Not of you voting them out. They're frightened of the mob. They're frightened that the mob is going to track them down, find their house, harass their family, locate the school of their kids, camp outside their home, kill their dog, maybe even target them for death. You won't. Republican voters won't. But they don't fear you. Here's what these capitalists don't realize. When you meet the insanely unhinged halfway in whatever kind of a naked attempt that you make to placate or capitulate or subsume or pander or appease, it makes them dangerously insane, too. Because that means the Republicans, lack the capability to see and understand that these insane lunatics will not be appeased. They can't be appeased. Logic, facts, all completely fucking immaterial. Lengthy history has illustrated, I consider this very, very clearly, as well as very recent history. You know, most Americans, and certainly the bulk of politicians, they're riddled with what I call, and I've said this for a number of years, I call it historical Alzheimer's. There's a phrase I recently heard that sums it up. The Republicans, sadly, apparently, perhaps the bulk of Americans, I guess we'll find out November 3rd, don't understand that unless you're willing to surrender everything, you better surrender absolutely nothing. Because guess what? The Democrats, the leftists, the American media maggots, the anarchists, Antifa, BLM, socialists, the communists, they're counting on it. They're counting on you to surrender, to be surrender monkeys. They're counting on you. Don't let them down. Two traitorous and betraying Senator Republicans have called for the removal of Columbus Day and Columbus. Wait, Joe Biden hasn't? So, okay, these two GOP senators are more in keeping with leftists than Biden? Two Republicans have called for the removal of qualified immunity for law enforcement. Two Republicans have called for removal of qualified immunity from cops. I've already said where that's going to go. A 5-year-old can see that. Look, Mom, there won't be any cops anymore. Mike Braun and Tom McClintock. Joe Biden hasn't. He hasn't said that. So what's going on? Republicans are also, have you noticed? They're really, really, really silent. They're dangerously and they're deathly silent. They are quaking with fear under their desks in the fetal position. They are allowing America to be taken down, one statue, one landmark, one bit of freedom at a time, along with wholesale big-ass chunks of free speech. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and more. And here's what happens, because we should know by now human nature. Unfortunately, too many of us don't. We are not schooled in human nature. What happens is their silence enlivens, supports, buttresses, emboldens, and energizes the Democrats, the leftists, the American media maggots, anarchists, Antifa, BLM, socialists, and communists. I've probably left out some. So what has happened is that altogether way too many Republicans have joined hands and locked lips with the enemy. Make no mistake. Democrats are the enemy. the enemy of everything American. This is America on July 4th of 2020. It's a republic. It's a republic. Can we keep it? I hope what I wrote a while ago is true. Where did I write this? I think I wrote this on Twitter, because I am really, 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 really active on Twitter. I wrote, "Hello, dear government. We the people have entrusted the preservation of our history, freedom, and liberty with you. However, you are now on notice. If you are disinterested in preserving these things, we will do it for you. Some may not care for our methods, but we will not relinquish the U.S." I'm going to keep repeating this until people get it, because this is the quintessential quote of all time. Pastor Martin Niemöller reminded us, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. And then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Wake up, America. We can save this country. We have all the requisite training, education, and experience to do it. We got the number of people to do it. We have the infrastructure to save her and pull her back. But the biggest question is, this is the question, do we have the will? Well, I guess we're going to find out on November 4th when we wake up in the morning, won't we? And evidently, well, this is America on July 4th of 2020.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me mostly on Twitter at bzep, my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by the Pratt & Whitney Engine Company, Thrust. You can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. I am going to come in immediate, soon contact with my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team in less than an hour. Thanks to everybody for listening live. Thank you for being in chat. Thanks for being in the Facebook chat, YouTube chat, and the SHR Media chat. I hope all that stuff worked out for everybody. It's a little early. Have a great 4th of July. Hint, NYPD might not be showing up on the 4th of July. I guess we'll see. I seriously mean it. God bless America. God bless you. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob.
Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.